What's up, YouTube? It's another day with the one and only Billy J. And it's Thursday, which means it's another recap review of 13 Reasons Why, and we're on episode 6. And this tape is Marcus's tape. This episode begins with a whole bunch of students crossing the street to go to school, and a Jeep driven by Monty and Justin as a passenger screeches to a halt to barely miss running over Alex. The jocks kind of laugh it off, and this pisses off Alex to no end, and Alex calls out Monty to a fight. Knowing he'd kick his ass, Monty kind of tries to cool down Alex, but Alex wasn't having it, and he shoves Monty into his Jeep, which starts the fight. The boys roll around on the ground, and I thought maybe Alex would have put on some moves, maybe some moves that he learned from his dad, but Monty got the upper hand and started beating the shit out of Alex. No surprise there. But Mr. Porter breaks up the fight after Alex is basically unconscious, just taking punches to the face. On a side note, the jock crew apparently still have Clay's bike. Back at school, Mr. Porter and a female vice principal argue over the semantics on whether the school has jurisdiction over the fight, because the boys were on their way to school, but the fight wasn't on school property. And if the news got out, the fight could actually be considered bullying. And Mr. Porter suggests that the high school honor board should hear the case and then deal out the punishment. Sherry comes up to Clay about some assignment that's due the next day, and Clay finally takes the hint and offers to help Sherry with the assignment. And when he mentions about being a tutor before, he flashes back to a time when he was tutoring Jeff. Bold prediction, I think Jeff might actually be the other student that the school lost, other than Hannah. Also in the library while Clay was tutoring Jeff was Tony and the gay newspaper writer. And those two were discussing about the inclusion of LGBT in the Valentine's Day matchmaking service. The gay reporter wants to post the surveys of the LGBT students in the magazine, but Tony thinks that might be a bad idea, just in case they're still in the closet and someone can figure out who they are. And Jeff helps out Clay fill out his $1 Valentine's Day survey so that he can get some ladies. Hannah fills one out, but she really wants Clay on her list, and she gives her survey to Sherry, who puts it in the system, and the results come back. And believe it or not, Bryce was number 1 and Alex was number 2. Not too great for Hannah. The only thing worse it could have been was Justin on the list too. But apparently Hannah was on top of Marcus's list, and he decided to call her up. Why didn't Marcus just meet her at lunch and say, "Hey, you're on my list"? Marcus offers up a dinner date at Rosie's Diner, and Hannah flirtatiously says that she'll think about it. Marcus is apparently the head of the honor board, along with familiar faces of Courtney, Clay, and Sherry. And Monty and Alex are basically on trial for the fight. And Alex scoffs at Marcus when Marcus claims that the honor board is there to protect the students. Especially when there's 4 of the 6 students that were on the tapes.
And isn't it ironic? Don't you think?
Then the blame game is being played, and then Clay interjects and says that everybody is at fault. And everyone goes silent. At work at the theater, Hannah asks Clay if he filled out a survey for the $1 Valentine's Day, and he straight up denies that he did.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying?
Hannah, on the other hand, is honest and says that she filled out a survey, and she tells him the results. Then there was a moment of sexual tension between the two, but it was broken up and interrupted by Jeff, who's there with his date. And Jeff accidentally spills the beans on Clay by asking Clay what his results were for the survey. Busted. Hannah then goes and sets up her date with Marcus for the night, and then tells Clay, "Hey, it's that easy." Back at the trial of the century, the jurors are back, And Monty is given 3-day suspension, and Alex is given a warning. And Alex is upset about the hypocrisy and storms off. Clay and Sherry are working on the assignment at Monet's, and Clay goes up to get some coffee, and who's there? None other than the overly tatted girl named Sky. And she kind of bashes Clay for being there with the cheerleader. She sounds a little jealous to me. And guess who walks into Monet's? None other than the Stalker Tony. But this time, he's not there with Hannah's mom. He's there with his college-aged boyfriend. This flusters Clay, and he suggests that Sherry and he go somewhere else to study, perhaps his place. Clay confronts Tony and accuses him of following him, which of course he denies.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying?
Tony introduces Clay to Brad, who looks like a guy from Glee. But Clay wasn't having none of that and he leaves. Brad then questions Tony about secrets. Ooh, is there trouble in paradise? A paradise that we didn't even know there was? Clay and Sherry go back to his place to study up in Clay's room. Meanwhile, apparently Justin's mom is on a bender since her and Meth Seth broke up, and Justin's been taking care of her. Jessica comes over and she's all about herself, and she's all worried about what might come out with the tapes and what's going on with Clay. And Justin just tells her to cool it. Then Jessica's in the mood and wants some of little Justin. But Justin wasn't in the mood and pushes her off. Pissed off, Jessica leaves to go back home, but not without taking some alcohol. Back at Clay's, Clay and Sherry are talking about the book and it's about love or whatever, and they lock eyes and then start making out. And smooth moving Clay, no look, closes the door with his foot.
It was all a dream.
And this time, it wasn't a dream. Back at Rosie's diner, after being stood up for over an hour, Marcus finally shows up to his date with Hannah. But Marcus wasn't alone. He came with a crew of jocks. The jock crew goes sit at another table while Marcus tries to smooth over Hannah. And Marcus lays on the charm and wins over Hannah's affection once again. Then one of the jocks discussed what the reasoning was Marcus being over an hour late. According to them, if you're late for a date and the girl decides to stay, that means she's DTF. Over at Clay's, Clay and Sherry are full on making out on the bed. And he pauses and asks Sherry if it was okay, as if he was going to go to the next level. Then Sherry puts on the brakes because she could tell that Clay was thinking about someone else. That someone else being Hannah. And of course, Clay denies it.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying?
Then Sherry starts crying, and it's revealed that she has a tape, and she was hoping that Clay wouldn't listen to her tape, so that Clay can go on believing that she was a good person. This sends Clay into a mind fuck, and he gets angry and starts questioning her motives for being nice to him and kissing him, and he doesn't even want to hear her answers, and he sends her away.
Let the hate flow through you.
Mac Daddy Marcus is trying to put the moves on Hannah, and unfortunately he's doing it a little too aggressively. He's feeling up her leg and won't let go.
I took her out for a check. I moved on her like a bitch. Grab him by the pussy.
And then he looks back at his boys as if to say, hey, watch this. And Hannah notices this, and she wasn't having it. And she pushes Marcus to the ground, embarrassing Marcus, and he makes an outburst in front of the whole restaurant. He then claims that he thought Hannah was easy.
Wrong.
And then he gathers up the jock crew and leave. Traumatized and upset, Hannah is frozen in place at the diner. Clay's mom comes up to see Clay because she obviously saw Sherry leave, probably in tears, so she came up to see Clay and she knew something was up. Clay tells his mom that he may be a bully, and she denies it and can't believe it because Clay is a good boy. Clay then says that maybe there are no good kids. She then goes to leave and then turns around and offers to not take the case if it's going to hurt Clay. But Clay has to be honest and tell her why. Clay claims that she can't help him and then closes the door on her.
Let the hate flow through you.
Back at the diner, the Asian jock Zach comes back to console and hang out with Hannah. He doesn't say anything, he just sits there and keeps her company. Jessica is back at her place in her room, drinking alone. I guess she's drinking her problems away, worrying about the tapes. Alex is at home with his dad, obviously beat up. He's got a big old black eye, and his dad is sitting there cleaning his gun. And his dad seems very strict because Alex calls him sir all the time. But his dad says that he's proud of Alex for standing up not only for himself, but for the other kids. I sure hope that the Asian jock doesn't have a tape. He seems really nice. But unfortunately, I think he does because he's always around the guys when they're talking about the tapes. So he apparently does have a tape. And he was part of the Legion of Doom at lunchtime. Clay is definitely going down a dark path.
Breaking my heart. You're going down a path I can't follow.
And now he doesn't know who he can trust. At least until he finishes the tapes. Who can Clay trust? And is Monty going to try to get revenge on Alex for being suspended? Obviously both students were wrong, but I think Monty was more wrong for speeding through the intersection because he definitely could have killed somebody. But then again, Alex did throw the first punch. Leave a comment down below on your thoughts. And remember, peace, love, unity, respect. Peace out, guys.